45. Just want to, we're gonna mute everybody in a moment. I just want to, as usual, welcome everybody who is gathering. I'll mute us. Great, I just want to welcome everybody who's gathering. It's really wonderful to arrive at Shabbat and be here together. I want to welcome folks who have joined us on YouTube and will be joining. It's great to wish all of you a Shabbat Shalom. As always, we want to invite you to join us in the chanting and singing this evening. Please feel free to appropriately use the chat, offering your words of wisdom, encouragement, blessings to one another, engaging in many different ways. And when you can come onto screen, it's always wonderful to see your face. And for folks on YouTube, when we invite people to offer blessings, please know that we'll see your chat, and we appreciate when you communicate with us that way as well. We're going to begin with a nigun, and so good Shabbos, everyone.
In honor of the month of Adar, on our way to Purim, this is called the Joy Nigun. Yai da da yai 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 yai. Yai da da yai 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 da yai. Ya da yai 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 da da da. Yai da da yai 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 da. Yai da da yai 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 yai. Yai da da yai 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 da da da. Yai yai. Yai da da yai yai da da yai 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 da da yai yai da 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 yai. Hey, yai da da yai 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 da da yai 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 da da yai 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 da da yai da da yai 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 yai. Yay, 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 oh, yay, 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 da, da, yay, 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 da, 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 yay, 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 da,
That was lovely. Great way to begin Shabbat and to begin this new month of Adar. As Gaia mentioned, Adar is the month that Purim is in. And so it's why, as I put in the chat, that the rabbis said that when Adar enters, our joy increases. And may that be so for us. And it certainly is joyful to be with you tonight. This Shabbat, we move into, from last week, the kind of grandeur of receiving the Ten Commandments in our Torah portion, to something that is a bit more mundane. There's really no narrative in this Torah portion. What is bold instead is the vast number of laws and kind of judgments that are issued, which are a way that the Israelites begin to understand they need to create a sense of community by structuring some order into their day-to-day lives. And many of these laws are about how to be in relationship with one another. And from that sense, there's this deep understanding of just relationship, or what we might call right relationship. And so from understanding these laws, our sense of justice, even though they create large senses of systems, it's also about how we interact with one another personally. And so it's about an individual act as well as a collective act. And this particular Torah portion, repeated twice, is this reminder that we should not oppress the stranger because we've had the experience of being a stranger. One of the ways to understand the word in Hebrew, ger, is to understand it as immigrants. That because we had this immigrant experience from the narrow place, from Egypt, we should remember that and remember in terms of how we engage and hold up our sense of justice. And so that's why tonight we'll have a guest speaker, Ronnate Asirwatham, who is going to share her experience of both being a refugee and an immigrant in this country and her desire to, from understanding that place, or hopefully I'm asking her that question this evening, it will be in an interview format, of how does she understand this piece of Torah in her own life, doing so much work, advocacy for others. She'll be joining us shortly. And so tonight's framing really invites that sense of both right relationship with us together this evening and also how we want to bring that sense of justice and right relationship in the world. We're going to move into our candle lighting, and tonight Rebecca Grapevine will be lighting our Shabbat candles and Gayan will be leading the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat. Amen. Rebecca, give you a moment to take that light in.
Amen.
Amen. We're going to continue into the love song of Kabbalat Shabbat, Dodi Lee. And the love songs are here for so many reasons, but it felt like with Adar, the new month, and the Chinese New Year is tonight as well, and Valentine's Day is this weekend, that we would really need to acknowledge this prayer that's right here in Shabbat. So Dodi Lee, we're going to let the recording of me and the chorus lead us, and please join in and sing as if we were right here together. You can find this on page 19 in your Dodi liva anilo haroe bashoshanim Dodi liva anilo haroe bashoshanim Dodi liva anilo haroe bashoshanim Dodi liva anilo continue with Shalom Aleichem. Welcome into Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Asharet, Malachi Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Asharet, Malachi Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem leShalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malachi Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni leShalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malachi Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni leShalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malachi Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sechem leShalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malachi Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We continue into the Psalms and what I'm calling tonight Songs of Justice for our Kabbalat Shabbat Psalm section. And we begin with L'chuna Ronnate. What better way to begin into the Psalms than to say, bring your voice, bring your song, bring all of it. Bring it before the divine goodness. And the reason that I wanted to bring a couple of other songs, one of them is also a video we'll follow, and it's Shir Chadasha with a new song. As the people of the Hebrew people had crossed into liberation, they're now singing a new song. They're in a new place. And with a new song as liberated people, we are praised at the lip of the sea, and we will not underestimate our power any longer. This Torah Parsha, really in all of its guidance, is an attempt for us to be hearing that we are to be living our lives in balance with a living divine justice and divine love, and to be able to bring these things into a sense of wholeness, and that's always a process. So the song that I think embodies this so well is Olam Chesed Yibaneh. We'll move into that and how we build our world in love and justice. So let's walk in with the fullness of our song, L'chuna Ronnate. L'chuna Ronnate l'Adonai, Nariya letzur ishenu, nekadema fena betoda bizmirot Nariya lo. Nekadema fena betoda with me. It's in Nagun. We can do this. Enjoy your voice. Each of our voices is an offering coming before divine goodness. This video that we're going to be looking at now is a song that was written by Rena Branson, who this past year was a resident of the Rising Song Institute. And it's called Our Power. And she pulled together a group of people that many LGBTQ folks and allies out of the northeast part of our country, some good friends of mine, some good friends of yours. And the song has been making its way through many channels and circuits lately because of the heart and soul of the message that's in this. Please enjoy and sing.
We will not underestimate our power any longer. We know that together we are strong. We will not underestimate our power any longer. We know that together we are strong. Drops of water shape the rocks as they rush down the falls. We know that together we are strong. We will not underestimate our power any longer. We know that together we are strong. We will not underestimate our power any longer. We know that together we are strong. Like drops of water shape the rocks as they rush down the falls. We know
chesed yibane. Yadadai, olam chesed yibane. Yadadai, olam chesed yibane. Yadadai, olam chesed yibane. I will build this world from love. And you must build this world from love. And if we build this world from love, then God will build this world from love. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi, likra kala, pene shabane kabela. Lecha dodi, likra kala, pene shabane kabela. Shamor v'zacha b'diber echad ishmianu el mirachad Adonai. Echad u'shemo echad l'shemo tiferet v'li'itila. Hey! Lecha dodi likra kala pene shabane kabela. Lecha dodi likra kala pene shabane kabela. Hitoreri kibarek kumi uri shir daberi kevod Adonai alach nigla. Lecha dodi likra kala pene shabane kabela. Lecha dodi likra kala pene shabane kabela. Yaminu smolti frotzi v'et Adonai taritzi al yadish bein partzi v'nismecha v'nagila. Hey, lecha dodi likra kala pene shabane kabela. Lecha dodi likra kala pene shabane kabela. Boi b'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha u'v'tzala toch emune am segola. Boi kala, boi Shabbat Shalom. It's so great.
Indeed. So friends, we move to Ma'ariv. We begin with the Chatzi Kaddish, which ushers us in, and then we'll move to the Baruch Hu. We find the Chatzi Kaddish on page 55. For those who'd like to rise in body or in spirit, please do so with me. Yikadach v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, b'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chai echon v'yom echon, uvchayetecho beit Yisrael, ba'agala ba'agala, uvizman kahariv, v'meru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbo mevorach, leolam leomei amaya, yiparach. Yiparach v'yishtabach, v'par v'tromam v'yitnaseh, v'tadar v'taleh, v'talal, shmei dekudesha brichu. Li'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushvechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma, v'meru amen. We find the Baruch Hu on page 57. And as we move into this opportunity to open ourselves up to receiving blessing, let us also remember that we offer blessing as well, just by our very presence. If we want to wish each other Shabbat Shalom or give each other a blessing in the chat, please feel free to do so right now. And join Gayanne and I and me in this call and response. Ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Baruchu et Adonai, hamevorach, hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai, hamevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai, hamevorach leolam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Tonight we're going to read together the interpretive version of Asher Bivaro. You'll find the words in the chat or on page 60. Please join me. Praised are you, God, ruler of the universe, who has ordained the rhythm of life. The day with its light calls to activity and exertion. But when the day wanes, when with the setting of the sun, colors fade, we cease from our labors and welcome the tranquility of the night. The subdued light of the moon and stars, the darkness and the stillness about us invite rest and repose. Trustfully, we yield to the quiet of sleep, for we know that while we are unaware of what goes on within and around us, our powers of body and mind are renewed. Therefore, at this evening hour, we seek composure of spirit. We give thanks for the day and its tasks, and for the night and its rest. Praised are you, God, who brings on the evening. You'll find the Chatimah on page 59.
Ma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yon ve'laila, Adonai tzavaot shemo, el chai v'chayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. The Ahavat Olam on page 63. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amchavta Torah mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו וקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו אורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה ואהבתך לא תצור ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל Amen.
Amen. We continue with the Shema. I'm going to invite us just to take a moment and, if it's your custom, to close your eyes and kind of settle in. Ma'ariv invites us to have a deeper connection, the Shabbat, to ourselves, with ourselves. And before we can feel any greater sense of oneness, we have to feel that oneness within our own self. Please join me in chanting these words. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom ahal levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shiftecha b'veitecha u'v'leftecha v'derech u'shafbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ohot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'heinenecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'sha'arecha. We move into the Micha Mocha on page 79. Invite Gayan to lead us in this chant.
Micha Mocha be'im Adonai, Micha Mocha neder b'kodesh, norati lo osef ele, yadadaya, Adonai imloch we move into the Hashkivenu. We'll be chanting Ufros Aleinu Suchat Shlomecha. You can find this on page 81 and 83. Ufros Aleinu Suchat Shlomecha Yai Ufros Aleinu Suchat Shlomecha.
Friends, before we move into a chant and a little bit of silence for us as an alternative Amidah this evening, I want to invite us to explore the text of the chant that Gayan composed for us this evening. And it's what I referenced at the very beginning, and you'll hear me reference it when Ronnate and I speak, which is, do not afflict or oppress the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Some believe that this is the primary teaching of Exodus. Another way to understand the morality of this Torah portion is that we must not commit acts upon others that were committed against us. That there is a way where the teaching of this portion is break the cycle. That just because there was trauma and violence in our experience, we need to become aware of what that experience does to us and to others in the world. And that when we have what we would say in a Musar tradition, a Bachira point, a choice point, when we become aware of our choices in the world, we must remember what was perpetrated against us and not do that unto others. And so in some ways, this is a fundamental justice, and it invites us to take on empathy as a spiritual practice. This idea, there's a second time this text is repeated, but in addition to what I read, it says, remember, because you know the heart of the immigrant, you know the heart of the oppressed and the stranger. And I think actually that it uses the word heart because it wants us to hearken back to Pharaoh, that Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and we have the opportunity not to let the experiences of our pain harden us, but rather soften us, let them open us so that we can be welcoming in ways that were unkind, that we can be generous in ways that people were stingy. We can be loving when people were hated and hateful. And that is because we're to turn into that sense of opening our heart and remembering. And so as we listen to this beautiful chant, I'm going to invite us to you'll hear the drum beat, let that tap on your heart, cracking it open. And as we move into the silence, let that silence deepen our commitment to not only not oppressing, but actually bringing forward the kinds of love and action that our world needs.
וגלו תלחץ ואתם ידעתם הנפש הגר כי גרים הייתם בארץ מצרים
Friends, with our hearts opened, it's a wonderful time to offer a prayer for healing and to connect our prayers and our desire for a refuah shlema, a healing of spirit, of body, and of mind. I'm going to invite you to put the names that you're holding right now in the chat. And I'll read the names out loud for folks who are joining us on YouTube. Please add the names that you're praying for healing as well. Richard Adler, Marilyn Pankin, Nancy Smith, Maureen Kamelson, Richard Cohen, Jenny Williams Cohen, Mario Eugene Hudson II, Lois Birch, Andrea Finn and Bev Corfin, Uli Sprick, Ellie Emmerhart, Chai and Billy Nach, Claude Baruch, Jordan and Jamie Schwartz, Tesla Queen, Janice Blackman, Beth Ann Budekant, Nancy Davis, Megan Radent, Janice Roger, Pilar Barclay, the Baton Snook family, the Levin family, the Kolbs Reckelman family, Grady Floyd Adair, Eyal Schechter, Audrey Galix, Faith Rustler, Dolly Wax, Esther Myers, Joel Bartfield, Ellen Leary, Monique Gauthier, Julio Quintana, Jacob Gutman, Rana Crozy, Patty Marcus.
Anna, Elna, Anna, Elna, Anna, Elna, Rifana, La, Anna, Elna, Anna, Elna, Anna, Elna, Rifana, Lo, Anna, Elna, Anna, Elna, Anna, Elna, Rifana, La.
So friends, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Ronnate. I'm gonna move, I like to keep myself on gallery mode most of the service so I can see all of your faces, but now I want to be able to see Ronnate. It's good to see you. We've been on the phone a lot, but it's great to see your face. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me here, and thank you for the warm welcome.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a formal introduction to Ronnate, but before I do that, I want to say that Ronnate and I developed a friendship and hopefully a mutual respect. I certainly had a great deal of respect for Ronnate. When working with American Jewish World Service, I had the opportunity to be one of their social justice fellows. And I traveled to the Dominican Republic And in preparation before leaving, and then while we were in the Dominican Republic, and many times since, often advocating for human and civil rights for people around the world, as well as kind of financial and other kinds of support, Ronnate was guiding us as the senior foreign policy advisor for American Jewish World Service. And I really appreciated both the level of preparation and the ways that we were able to work together. And so when we found another opportunity to join forces, we decided to do so. And so it's my pleasure to welcome Ronnate and introduce her to all of you. Currently, she is the Senior Director, Strategy and Advocacy. She is the Director of Strategy and Advocacy for Bridges Faith Initiative, which is a national faith-based advocacy organization. She has 10 years experience in the U.S. federal advocacy and has also worked in humanitarian, human rights, and foreign policy advocacy in Sri Lanka, South Sudan, and Burma. She received her master's in law and diplomacy from the Fletcher School, Tufts University, Massachusetts, and a master's in human rights and humanitarian law from the University of Essex in the United Kingdom. Currently, she lives in the Washington, D.C. area with her husband. And so I told her that I was going to ask her a quintessential Jewish question just to get us started, which I wanted to know if she had a favorite food, and particularly a food from her home.
Thanks, Josh. And yes, hi, Jackie. Yay, Jumbos. That is the Tufts Fletcher School. For those of you who don't know, to answer your question, Josh. So my favorite food from home, especially, is something called pittu. So it is flour. So it could be, it's usually rice flour, but you could also do it with wheat flour and water and salt. You just mix it up, and there's a special. It doesn't have to be done this way, but this is the way it's usually done. You know, once you've moved to America, you just find new ways to do things. But it's usually put in this pan like a funnel, and it's steamed. So it comes out like a funnel. And so you have this flour and a mix as well as coconut, and you put it in this funnel-like pan, and you steam it. And so it's savory that you would eat like rice, and but it's called pittu. And I like that to eat it with tongue curry. That's my favorite food.
Awesome. So now we'll get to the serious matters, but there's always a great way of bonding over food. So really, again, I want to welcome you. I'm so glad that you're here. And the reason why I invited you to speak on this particular Shabbat is because, as you've heard and as I've mentioned to our community, is that the portion that Jews read from the Torah this week speaks about how we might welcome what often is translated as the stranger, but in Hebrew can also be legitimately and often is understood as the immigrant. So last week, as I said, we read about the 10 Commandments, and this week we are really given the basic building blocks to create a new society. And this is important because the Israelites, according to the Torah, arrived in Mitzrayim, which often gets translated as Egypt, but I feel like we conjure modern day Egypt, and really what I think we're referring to are the narrow places that all immigrants often flee when they feel the need to flee home. As Warsan Shire has written in her poetry very powerfully, is that no one willfully chooses to leave home. Often it is because there is something narrow that they're escaping. And so they're already refugees from the land of Canaan when they settled in the narrow place. And they did so because they left a famine. Treated well at first, they were never granted full and equal citizenship. And so eventually they became seen as a threat, once welcomed, now a threat, and they are increasingly oppressed as we read their story. What follows is the escape from their enslavement and their journey to the promised land. So among the laws that they're given in this week's Torah portion, as I've said is, "Do not oppress the stranger, for you know the soul of the stranger, for you were immigrants in the land of the narrow place." And of note that this is repeated in the same reading twice, so we have it 2 times in this reading, and in the Hebrew Bible altogether 36 times. So I'm wondering how this text relate to why you have been a lifelong immigration advocate.
Thanks, Josh. I think this text sort of relates to me and why I have been such a lifelong advocate. I would say, first of all, it was because I felt a stranger in my own land because of the oppression and inequality there. And then, growing up and fighting against that, and it was because of that oppression and inequality, then I was forced to flee. And now, having received asylum and become a citizen in the United States, I see the same, I see inequality and oppression in the system here, especially in the immigration system. And therefore, I feel that I need to, it is both my duty and also the work that I feel that I have been set out to do, to advocate and to add a little more context to that and tell a personal story. So I am from Sri Lanka, as you know, or you might have known. Sri Lanka has had ethnic strife for as long as I have been born. And even on the day that I was supposed to, so, and it's ethnic strife between main communities, the Sinhalese and a Tamil. And Tamils, I am from the Tamil community. And even on the day that I was supposed to be born, so on my mother's due date, there were government-sponsored riots, and our house was going to be attacked. But then my pregnant mother, obviously, she stood in front of the house. My father had gone to support neighbors and others, and they didn't attack our house. Needless to say, I was not born on that day. I was born later because I clearly didn't want to come out to this type of work. But then when I was 4 years old, there was again riots, and this time we did have to flee our house. And since then, there was we were the lucky ones. We were able to return to our home, but there were a lot of internally displaced camps in the country, and then there was a military war between both the government and the rebel group, and that continued and until 2009. And there was that was not the only thing. There was obviously a lot of oppression, a lot of human rights violations going on in different fronts. And then in 2008, 2009, 2009. There was mass atrocities where the United Nations then said there was, United Nations estimate that more than 40,000 civilians were killed in the space of 3 months. That rape was used as a weapon of war. It was just terrible. At that time, I was in the country. I was working for a humanitarian organization, and my job was also to try to make sure that the staff there was safe as well. My husband is a journalist, and he was also writing against the war. And at that time, he was then arrested. He was tortured, and he was given a 20-year sentence just for writing, which the government said was a terrorist act. And then because I was advocating for his freedom, I was also under attack. The forces were trying to kidnap me. There was I had to keep moving around. And then I decided to flee the country with, and the fleeing it was not like the way a lot of people come to the southern border. I did come on a plane, so that was much more helpful, I think, in the latter part of going through the immigration system, and I can talk about that later. But that's how 11 years ago, almost 11 years ago, I came to the United States, knowing that, that I might not see my country again, or the country that I had left, and I hope to adopt this country. So that was something. So that is something that I have experienced.
So appreciate your willingness to share this challenging part of your story. And to me, what feels incredibly redemptive is that you've taken that experience and you've dedicated your life to advocating for others in different situations in this immigration system, and understanding the ways that the United States both makes it difficult for countries just by the actions that they create in the world and support some political instability, as well as the system itself. And so I was wondering, on the other side of coming to the United States, what would you like more people to know about the immigrant experience and the asylee experience, to understand the importance of the work that you do now?
I think one of the most important things to understand is that within the system, and I think first of all, there should be changes within the system, and then also just within communities. So one of the things that really made it easy for me was that I had, for me to go through the asylum system, was that I had a lawyer. It was a pro bono lawyer, and that really made things easier. The second thing I would say was that I think right now there is, especially now, one looks at immigrants quite differently, or there is a lot of information that paints immigrants simply not as people, as undocumented, and undocumented equals illegal equals people who are prone to crime. And this clearly, once one starts putting labels on people, one cannot see them as people. And this is something I work definitely to try and take those images away, because because I think it's really important to see that these are people, and that simply, the fact that somebody doesn't have documentation. And let me give you an example from my own work, or from my own experience. The immigration system, even at that time, was difficult. It is even more difficult now. But even when I came 11 years ago, it was extremely difficult. And even though I could, and I still can, read English and work in an English system, it was still difficult and complicated. I obviously came on a visa, and when I was then adjusting my status, by the time my visa expired and my adjustment of status came through, there was a gap. At which point, technically, I was undocumented. I didn't do anything illegal, right? I had also put in, because of I had a lawyer, and the lawyer came through a friend. It was not like I was thinking about it. I was just happened to be lucky, to be blessed, to be able to have such a lawyer, and a pro bono lawyer. So my lawyer had put in the papers, but since my visa had expired, if my lawyer had not told me that it was okay, that your other, I've already put in the papers, it's just a delay in the government getting you the stuff. It's fine. You can continue your life. I was going to school at the time. I would have been afraid. And even if my papers had come after that, I would have been like, oh my gosh, no, I missed this time. So now I shouldn't go through the next steps, right? And this is why a lot of people do not get their paperwork in time and become undocumented. It is not that all of them and everybody is doing something illegal. So I think the myth of what and who an immigrant is, I think is really important right now to understand that and to always see the person. And then I would say the third thing that is most important in the whole immigration, working on immigration, is empowerment of immigrants themselves, but mainly of immigrants themselves. I can say that, Rabbi Josh and I have had many conversations, and I have not felt empowered enough to tell my story publicly, simply because, I have been told since I've been here, despite, my abilities, oh, you are an immigrant, so you can't talk about immigration, you'll be too biased. Or you as an immigrant, what do you know? You don't know our systems. Um, I have learned the systems, clearly. I didn't know it when I came. Um, but that kind of empowerment, I think, is necessary where, and it is because I have to credit Rabbi Josh a lot for supporting me in this and understanding that showing me that, yes, I can do many things. And that kind of empowerment where then we can support the system and support it in a way that where the person is centered is, I think, important. So I would say that's, going forward, that's things that we need to think about.
No, I so appreciate that, and it kind of leads right into the next question that I have, which, I think that part of why I was interested in the proposal to support you in starting your own organization, the Bridge Faith Initiative, is because it was important for me to see somebody like yourself actually speaking, for immigrants to be speaking for themselves and to be advocating for themselves, and to have somebody who in a very real way knows that heart of the experience. It's not just baked into a faith tradition, or I know the experience from my grandparents and my great-grandparents, but and so it feels incredibly important. But I wonder, for you, what is your vision, and what do you hope to accomplish by founding this new organization?
So my vision in founding this new organization was to, as the name says, to build bridges. But first on issues, because from where I see it as and my own experience is that I think we need to have a holistic approach in trying um, to sort of empower people and ensure human rights and democracy. Uh, it's just like not just the immigration problem, or if not just an immigration problem, if that is the problem, or a refugee problem, or the reason why there are refugees and asylees, etc., for the most part, is because of war, as has been my experience. There is other reasons why they are, but mainly war, persecution, etc. So I want to be the bridge for people to try to see. I hope that this organization would be in a position where it would be working on these issues in a holistic way. So that is why Bridges Faith Initiative is working on sort of three big buckets. One is civilian security. This is not. This has parts of national security, but it mostly keeps the civilian in context. So this talks about of trying to have systems where there is no torture, where there is more civil liberties, and advocating for policies that promote that. The second bucket that we at Bridges work on is ending mass atrocities. The reason when there's more and more torture, less and less civil liberties, it goes on to mass atrocities. And since my experience has been in Sri Lanka and Burma, we are focusing on that, but we are also focusing on the larger policies that we hope would end mass atrocities. And we are obviously focused a lot on the US government, not just because that's where we are, but the US does have a lot of influence. It is the biggest influence, in my opinion, on all of these things around the world. And so if we have the policies here And some of the policies we do have, like there's the Elie Wiesel Act, which is to prevent mass atrocities, but it's the implementation that we need to push through. And then of course it is the U.S. immigration. So those are the three buckets. First is civilian security, ending mass atrocities, and changing the immigration system, a just and humane U.S. immigration system. So I would say that is what we're working on. That is my vision, to be a bridge on that. And I have two others actually. One of the things that, being here in the U.S., being in DC, and then having the pleasure of meeting Josh from Atlanta and people from other different states, etc. I have always, at least 10 years ago, I was wondering, like, why do people just hate DC so much? It's always like, oh, this DC is just the worst. Being a person who lives in DC, I love it. But it's actually, what I've come to realize is, what people dislike about DC is actually the people who are not from DC, i.e. Congress. We have no representation there. But the bigger thing is that I think there's quite a gap between what we in DC see, we see how the government works, and people who don't live in DC, like in Atlanta, for example. You don't see how the government works up close, and then that also leads to why the government is important or not important in people's lives, and how misinformation can spread. So I'm hoping that this organization would be the bridge between the DC and not DC, in terms of culture and information. And then the third part would be, I'm hoping this organization would be the bridge between communities, and it could be both communities within this country. One is, for example, if you take the immigration community, the immigrant community, people see immigrants mainly as Hispanic, newcomers, etc. And even in places like Atlanta, you would see that there's a tension, not just between, the native people of Atlanta and the newcomers who might be the immigrants. It's even for people who, it's even like you can slice and dice how people are different in communities and go deeper. For example, immigrants and the Black community, there's a tension there because if you go and look at the meat packer industry, for example, more Black community members have been pushed out because immigrants work for less and they come. So then you have that where this community is then divided when actually it's a systematic issue that people are just being paid very low wages for lower and lower jobs. So I hope to be I hope this organization can be a bridge builder with communities, communities of color, communities of different ethnicities, communities of newcomer and native, as well as faith communities. So those are what I hope would be the three bridges.
So I want to ask us a final question, and I just want to say that what was really compelling about when we first talked is when you talked about that holistic approach and that recognizing that actually there's a domestic policy side and a foreign policy side, that often organizations are only working on one side of it rather than holding both of them together. So, I know that we have a new administration, and already many things have happened. And so I'm curious about this new administration. What is making you hopeful? And where do you think that we will be needing to, or where do we right now need to advocate to create a more just immigration system?
So clearly, I think what is making it more hopeful is the general tone, let me say, of the administration, where immigration and immigrants are not a dirty word, are not criminal. And I think that makes a big difference. I think, the day one or first week, first 3 weeks actions of the administration has been also helpful in terms of, reviewing and, trying to, first heal and then, first heal what the immigration system, um, and then hopefully we'll move to transformation of the immigration system. So that is the good part. I think in terms of what we need to advocate, uh, we would need to advocate with the administration itself first, and not only uh, on the issue of the use of the Title 42 to stop asylum at the southern border. And this is a health order that says, it is not, it is a danger for asylum seekers to be let into the U.S. at the southern border and only at the southern border because of the health crisis. Lots of health, not lots of, like almost all health experts have said there's no such health issue there. The administration has not suspended this order yet. We hope that they will do so. And because of this order, people are being expelled. You don't have any process. You don't have any due process. And people are being deported despite the moratorium on deportations. And most of the people who are being deported are Black immigrants. There are flights to Haiti going on every day in the last week, some flights to Angola, DRC, etc. So that is something that we need to really focus on with the administration. And then, of course, in order to transform the immigration system, we need to continue and to do a lot more advocacy with Congress. And that is where, we would definitely need all of your help in pushing your Congress people in talking about immigration. So those are the ways that I think we need to work on.
Great. So we have our first newsletter coming out, and I will make sure that I share a link in our community weekly news blast so that people can find out more, can sign up for the newsletter, and keep track of the work that Bridges is doing in DC. And just want to ask you if you have any final word or kind of even, express to folks what kind of help is needed at this moment.
Sure. My final word is obviously to thank you all for this opportunity. But what I think is most needed right now is advocacy. And I think Susan has said advocating is so essential. That is true. It is a part of an advocacy for a just and humane immigration system. And I think advocacy as a whole is important, both just for community and for also keeping the democracy going forward. As I said, I have come from a different country, and being able to advocate is a privilege. And I think it is something that citizens can do in this country, and that more and more of us should be doing it so that we can keep our democracy, because it is a vital and essential part of it. That is my ask of you.
So I gave you an even greater opportunity, but friends, what I want to say is that, and speaking of narrow places, this week for us, the narrow place was PayPal. And so we've been trying very desperately to get our donate button working on our newsletter, and Ronnate has been on hold more than she's actually probably been able to talk to her husband this week. And so, hopefully there will be an opportunity to also financially support this work. In the meantime, if people want to make a donation to my discretionary fund, and just let me know that it's for Bridges, happy to do that. There's a way where Ronnate currently is still working to support, working with other organizations in order to support her stuff, and we want to be able to sometime in the next year make this a full-time, not that she's not working full-time, but to be able to support this work for her full-time. Because what I was able to see at American Jewish World Service was just how incredibly effective Ronnate has been on Capitol Hill. And so we need somebody who has the skills, the sensitivity, the political savvy that she brings. So I'm so grateful that you came. I'm glad you got to meet my community. I'm glad we got to meet you, and we look forward to learning and hearing more. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm so happy to meet you all. Thanks again for all your work on this.
And I'm going to invite one of our board members, Marcy Alt, to give some announcements. Shabbat Shalom, Marcy. You are muted, my favorite.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Now, everybody can now do a shot of Manischewitz now that I had to.
Ryan, let's go. Come on. You picked the right girl to do that, right? All right. So we're glad to host so many friends from around Atlanta and around the country to our virtual services. All are invited to our offerings every week. In the coming week, there's a Torah study. It's the Esther edition, and it's with Rabbi Godfrey tomorrow at 10 a.m. Join us at noon, Monday, February 15th, for a lunch and learn with Rabbi Godfrey as well. At 6 p.m. on Monday, also join us for a meditation and chant. Mindful Moments continues every weekday at 8:45 a.m. There's a 10-minute minyan that continues, and it's Saturday through Thursday at 7:45 p.m. Now, next weekend services on February 19th, on Friday, February 19th. Join us at 6:45 for Shabbat services with Gayan. I don't say your name right, your last name right, Gayan, so I'm just calling you Gayan. Join Rabbi Godfrey on Saturday, February 20th at 10 a.m. for Shabbat morning services. So the Food Security Project is looking for some fresh faces to help deliver food on Friday afternoons. It's easy and it's a meaningful way to make a difference. I've done it. Go do it. Call Rebecca. Email Rebecca at ourgrapevine@gmail.com. She'll show you how to sign up for it. As a reminder, please support the new album, Red Thread, from CBH Chorus Band and Strings. You can purchase on Bandcamp or a CD from the CBH website. And it's now streaming on Spotify as well. If you're an artist of any sort, whether it be very visual or performing or otherwise, please consider creating a piece of art for CBH's Red Thread Art Show. You can find details in BetMail. Be sure to save the date for CBH's Oh So Gay Purim Cabaret. Say that 3 times real fast. Friday, February 26th at 7 p.m. Tickets for CBH's Purim raffle are available, and you can purchase them on our website. Check out the fabulous prizes and get your tickets soon. As a reminder, if you need to contact the CBH staff, please do so via their CBH emails. Even though we love Facebook and social media, the staff does not check their social media as often as they check their email. So email them, please. As always, a full view of all of our offerings, you can visit the CBH calendar on our website. We are constantly posting new events and services. So, I lost myself. Oh, there she goes. So please check often and stay up to date. All Zoom links to our programs can be found on our streaming services. It's in the section that says streaming services. Bookmark this page, and you'll always know where to log on for CBH programs and events. Back to you, Rabbi.
Thank you so
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. I was going to say thank you so much. Our teleprompting assistant, Elisa Bauer. Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see you. We're going to continue tonight as an alternative to Aleinu. We're going to chant the phrase Ein Od Milvado, Ein Od, as a way to kind of recognize the oneness that we just witnessed in speaking about our connections from that human place that Ronnate and I in our conversation. So I'm going to invite Gayan to lead that. Gayan.
Really good.
Finally just mastered that.
I know. Marcy, you're not alone. That's all I can say. Ein od milvado, ein od milvado.
Friends, we read together the prayer for the end of hiding, this important prayer that grounds us in why our congregation was founded and really invites us to recognize the importance of our creative full expression. Please join me in saying this prayer. As LGBTQ Jews, we are aware of the loss of integrity we suffer due to pressures of the larger society. We often feel forced into a dishonest presentation of ourselves to ourselves and others. The LGBTQ individuals who feel they must pretend to be something they are not, the Jews who feel they must be alienated from their tradition and community to win larger acceptance, both are victims of a theft of identity and integrity committed by the sexual, gender-identifying, or religious majority. Creator of the universe, we ask that our hiding draw to an end, that we no longer feel we have to pretend, to promise falsely, to renounce ourselves, and that our fullest creative expression as Jews and as lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and queer people be among the blessings you bestow upon us. Amen. So we find Mourner's Kaddish on page 131. Going to ask folks to put the names of those that we are remembering this evening. If you're in a period of ritual mourning or observing a yortzeit, please rise if you would like and join me in saying this prayer. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be a blessing. We can find the prayer on page 131. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, b'agolav v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam omei almaya, yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekutsha b'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amira be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom mimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru. Amen. We're going to close with those words. May the one who created peace in the heights create peace for all of us, for all of Israel and the entire world.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'yakol Yisrael, ve'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'yakol Yisrael, v'imru, imru. Amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'yakol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom aleinu. Yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Please feel free to come off of mute, wish each other a good Shabbos before we go on our way, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. Okay, tomorrow.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Hey, Susan.
Have a good week.
Thank you.
Have a good week.